Welcome to the Strokecast. A Generation X stroke survivor explores rehab, recovery, the frontiers of neuroscience, and how to peel a banana with one hand.
Hello, I'm Bill Monroe, and welcome to episode 46 of the Strokecast. You know, this is the week between Christmas and New Year's as I'm recording this. It is the last episode of the year, so it's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to be sharing my 10 favorite hacks of the weeks for the year. Now, there's no real sophisticated algorithm that goes into choosing these, just the ones that I happen to like the most this particular time of day. Had I chosen the list in a different hour, maybe they'd be a little bit different. Of course, thanks to all the guests who joined me throughout 2018 and generously shared their stories with all of us. I know I find power and comfort in hearing the stories of other survivors and what they're going through and what they're doing today. And I hope that you find similar comfort as well. Before we get to the hacks, I want to share a story from Doctor Who. I know, shocking, right? I can be a total nerd at times. In the episode Heaven Sent, which is pretty much one of the best episodes of the latest incarnation of the show that really has ever been released, the lead character, the Doctor, a time-traveling, super smart alien, finds himself stuck in some sort of prison. He has to gradually work his way out, and it's not fast. Eventually, he figures out how, and he tells a story created by the Brothers Grimm about a bird. He says, "The Brothers Grimm, lovely fellas, they're on my daughter's team. According to them, there's this emperor, and he asks this shepherd's boy, how many seconds are there in an eternity? And the shepherd's boy says, there's this mountain of pure diamond. It takes an hour to climb it and an hour to go around it. Every 100 years, a little bird comes and sharpens its beak on the diamond mountain. And when the entire mountain is chiseled away, the first second of an eternity will have passed. You must think that's a hell of a long time. Personally, I think that's a hell of a bird." Stroke recovery is a long, slow process, and sometimes it does feel like an eternity. As a stroke survivor, though, you are not the mountain. You are the bird. And you are one hell of a bird. Use these hacks while you chip away at that mountain and make plans for a great 2019.
And that brings me to our first ever hack of the week. And that is how to peel a banana with one hand. I actually do this two different ways depending on the situation. First of all, if I don't have any tools available and I'm just holding a banana, first thing I'll do is hold the banana gently in my fist. I'll have the long side of the curve facing away from me, which means the stem points slightly towards me. Then make sure I grip it gently in my good fist, and I push my thumb against the stem to bend it back. Now, two things could happen at this point. Ideally, that alone might tear the stem off the very top of the peel, and then I can just work the peel down with my middle finger and my index finger. What's more likely is that the stem won't tear away from the peel, but instead, on the far side of the banana, on the longer curved side, what will happen is the peel will start to split along one of the edges. And then I can work my index finger into that split in the peel, move my finger up the stem, and split the stem. Then I can grip one piece of that split stem between my index finger and my middle finger, and I can slowly work that down. And then come back up and do the other side. Or once I have that split and it started like that, I could even just lay it down on the counter and then start gripping with my thumb and my other fingers to pull the peel down. The other technique is great if you happen to have a cutting board and even a butter knife, but something that you can cut through the banana. Because if you have those tools, then what I found is that I can easily cut the banana in half across the middle, and then I can easily get my fingers in between the skin and the fruit itself and peel the peel away that way. Sure, it's easier, but it is a little bit messier. But regardless, 2 techniques for peeling a banana with one hand. And that brings us to my hack of the week this week. Getting stuff out of the refrigerator can be surprisingly difficult due to balance issues, due to having only one working hand to be able to do it. What would happen is I would open the door, I would try to find something, then I would get hit in the head by the refrigerator door as it starts to close on its own. I would pull my head out of the way and then watch the door close. And then I would go ahead and repeat. And that would happen 4 or 5 or 6 times, depending on what I was looking for in the fridge. And then I figured out the trick to it. What I do now is I open the vegetable drawer in the refrigerator. Because once that vegetable drawer is open, it actually props open the refrigerator door. So now I can open the door, open the drawer, hunt for whatever it is I'm looking for in the back shelf, pull it out, then I can close the drawer and let the door close. And that brings us to our hack of the week. And this week's hack is mop holders. Now, you may have seen these things used for advertising where you're going to store your mops in your laundry room or your garden tools in the garage. Basically, they have 2 sort of springy rollers and an adhesive back. So why are they so awesome? Do I really have that many mops? No, actually, I'm not sure how many mops I have. The reason I love these mop holders is that I use them to hold my cane. I have these mop holders stuck to the wall in various parts of my apartment. You can actually see some pictures of this over at strokecast.com in the notes for episode 5. And I'm actually going to link to the specific mop holders that I use on Amazon. Just go to strokecast.com/mop and it will take you right to those. I use these things so that my cane doesn't fall. It means that my cane doesn't just lay on the floor when I'm sitting at the couch or sitting at the dining room table or using the bathroom, because I have these mop holders on the wall for the cane. Because one of the most unfortunately ironic things would be to stand up or have somebody else walk by and then trip over the cane and hurt themselves. And we don't want any of that to happen. When these things are stuck to the wall, it means my cane doesn't fall. I can easily pop it in there and then pop it back out when I need it. It also means that I am less likely to misplace my cane, because if I'm not sure where I left my cane because I put it down and then actually walked a little bit without it, there are about 5 or 6 likely places where it will be, and I can just look around and see it stuck to the wall in some place. So these things are great. They're cheap. And if you are using a cane to get around your apartment or your home, these mop holders are definitely something you want to check out so you can secure your cane to wherever it is you need to secure your cane. Go to strokecast.com/mop to check out the mop holders on Amazon. And that brings us to our hack of the week, Mise en place. Cooks or just fans of cooking shows and Food Network TV probably already know the term mise en place. Basically, it means everything in its place. When preparing a meal, it refers to getting all of your ingredients ready to go and getting your equipment in place before you start cooking. The alternative, of course, is to pull stuff together as you need it. Start cooking, go to the fridge for something else, pull something else down, cut something else up. Now, this makes the timing of everything a challenge, and it can be stressful. I found that approach to be tough when I had 2 functional hands and nearly impossible with one. Whether disabled or not, everyone can benefit from mise en place. So let's see how this plays out when I make an omelet. If I'm relying on my mise en place, I'll start by putting a mixing bowl on the counter, then putting a frying pan on the stove with the stove turned off. I'll also grab a piece of Dicem, a spatula, a pat of butter, and whatever else I need. Then I'll pull 1 egg out of the fridge, Then I'll pull out the carton of egg whites because I'm going to pretend to be healthful here. Then I'll pull out a couple of slices of cheese because I'm not actually going to be healthful. And then I'll pull out some scallions or some other green stuff. And I'll put all of this on the counter. Then I'll start tearing up those 2 slices of Kraft singles into little pieces, cut up the scallions, and I'll mix the egg and egg whites in the mixing bowl, which is sitting on a piece of Dyson so that bowl doesn't spill. Only when all of those ingredients are fully prepped and ready do I then turn on the stove. And from that point, it's just a question of putting the ingredients in. And everything is already within reach and all ready to go. So I may actually have some downtime in between steps as I wait for butter to melt or for eggs to solidify. But that's okay because I have this system in place, so I'm not stressed out. I'm not trying to make time. I'm not rushing through things, which is always a bad idea when you're working with one hand. And in my short 10-month experience here, as I continue to live with disabilities, Mise en Place is a great way to minimize their impact. Whether it's doing laundry, filling a bi-weekly pill box, or making breakfast, Mise en Place makes the difference. Anyway, that brings us to our hack of the week, is to get a tightly closing thermos with a handle. I have a nice metal one with a screw-on lid. What this means is that I can actually carry my tea or my coffee to another room with my affected hand. And this is important because my unaffected hand is usually holding my cane, or it is holding onto the railing that goes up and down the stairs. The other nice thing about this is that it means I can actually make my tone and spasticity work for me. I have just enough grip in my affected hand to sort of start to close my fingers around the handle of my thermos, and then the tone will sort of keep them in place. It really wants to make a fist, so this is one way to actually go ahead and take advantage of that. Then I can go ahead and carry my thermos full of tea or coffee on up the stairs to my home office. The particular brand that I have is one that Kathy and I picked up at Ranch 99, which is an Asian grocery store you see on the west coast of the U.S. And the brand is actually B-U-B-E-E, or Booby, which amuses my inner 12-year-old to no end. So go ahead and pick up a thermos with a handle, and if you get extra amusement from the brand, well, fantastic. That's just gravy. If you have an OT with you, you can't let them get away without giving you the hack of the week.
If patients are having a hard time holding on to a washcloth and family members are just trying to get something in, sometimes I'll have patients bring in oven mitts to put in their hand, and then it keeps it on their hand, but then they're also able to use that arm, so it's very therapeutic for the arm, but then they're not having to think about holding it, right? If the grip is still weak, that's a little tip that I've used.
So basically sort of using an oven mitt as a washcloth then, essentially?
Yeah, which I think you can buy bath mitts that are similar, but a lot of family members have just grabbed an oven mitt, and
Sure.
they may honestly even be cheaper than what a quote-unquote bath mitt might be.
You've probably got a few dozen sitting in that bottom drawer in the kitchen that you're never sure what to do with.
Exactly, and I like it too because then the patient's not frustrated because they can't hold the washcloth, right? But they can still, like, if they have good shoulder and elbow movement, they still can wash their body with that affected side. And then we continue to work on the grip strength and have that be a goal. But maybe that day, we just work on the elbow and the shoulder or something in the shower. So
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And that brings us to our hack of the week. This week's tip, we're doing something a little bit different. Instead of being a more general stroke tip, we have 5 actionable tips to make it easier to start using your CPAP or BiPAP machine to treat your sleep apnea.
When you find that you've taken it off in your sleep, and you will, it's very bizarre, but we take it off. If you wake up, put it back on. You have to constantly reapply the mask. Don't say, oh, it's off now, so I'm going to just roll over and go to sleep, because you got to get your body used to that. Another thing is, like I said, I'm watching it and using it while I'm awake to get used to the feeling of it, because it is different. It's not natural, as you said. And if you're really having trouble, I read put socks on your hands, because it's harder to take the mask off when you've got socks on your hands. Or another person said to put medical tape, because the tearing of the tape off of when you're pulling the mask off will wake you up. So, but you just have to be diligent about it. And the mask is probably the most important thing. If you are struggling, the mask is not the right fit for you. And don't do what I did, because I bought them all out of pocket and tried them all. Go back to your sleep doctor and they can write a refit prescription, so your insurance will cover the refit and the new mask. But that's the key. I found the mask is the key.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So if folks want to learn more about you and what you're up to, where should they go?
They can email me.
Awesome.
I don't have a website or anything, but Kristen Dingman at gmail.com.
Awesome. So thank you so much for joining us this week, Kristen. This has been fantastic.
It's been fun.
And it's been an awesome excuse to catch up after a very long time.
Definitely.
And for our hack of the week, let's explore some tips on living with aphasia. So, what is one tip that you would offer to other folks who are dealing with aphasia?
Stroke Comeback Center is right now, and it's going on, and it's beautiful.
So do I hear you saying find a peer group? Find other survivors?
Yes.
There's not one of these centers everywhere.
Yeah, I understand that.
But there are other centers.
Okay. Because a tip of everybody should move to Vienna, Virginia, that is certainly one viable option.
or Rockville. Just saying.
Awesome.
You should see Pat. He is like vehemently shaking his head no. You know, his biggest complaint is there's already too many people around.
So sad.
It wasn't like that when I grew up here.
But hospitals also stroke, and you can go there and help.
Find a support group.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I have a question. Well,
Okay.
Wait a minute, we have another tip, and then I think Chris has a question. Go ahead, Pat. What's your tip?
For me personally, I think a lot of these people in this room, is you can't quit if you had a stroke or a TBI. And if you're trying to do this one thing, it's not working, but you keep trying, you got to stop. That's what I believe, because that's why I've been doing this for years. You stop and you go do something else. Because for me personally, there's more stuff I need to practice, reading, get on the bike or something, So there's always something else to do for somebody like us, I believe. And there is always something else to...
What are you trying to say? Jerry's trying to help you.
else.
Oh, there's always something else?
Else you could practice on your speech.
Right.
So that's what I believe. For me too, that's big for me, but I think there's a lot of people that had strokes or a TBI. So.
And that brings us to our hack of the week. Aprons. You see, I am starting fashion trends all over the place because that is just what I do. Ask anybody and none of them will tell you that I am fashionable because I am so fashion forward. I am ahead of all of these trends. And the latest trend I'm bringing forward is aprons. You see, hemiparesis means that I lost the use of pockets on the left side of my body. I simply can't easily reach the pockets in my pants over there. And of course, I know many of the women listening are probably thinking, well, at least you had the use of pockets for most of your life. And yes, that's true, but I want them back. You see, carrying stuff like little things is challenging. Between stairs and handrails and holding a cane and realizing I left my bag in another room, it can be difficult to hold stuff and to put stuff in pockets that I can't reach. So I recently started wearing an apron that has big pockets on the front. Now I can stash my tablet, my thermal coffee mug, my bullet journal, my phone, and more right in the pockets on my apron. And it easily goes with me, and I drop less food on my shirt too. So it's a winning solution. If you find yourself struggling with carrying stuff around your home, consider adding an apron with pockets to your wardrobe. Plus, tying those apron strings doubles as occupational therapy. And that brings us to our hack of the week.
Patience and learning that things will likely take longer, and that can be through developing a mindfulness practice. As someone who was not terribly patient before their stroke, mindfulness has been a great way to help kind of increase that muscle. And patience really is a muscle, and I think that I didn't like hearing that initially. It made me kind of annoyed, but kind of learning to strengthen that can be important, and it's something that can be really simple and easy and doesn't have to be a 30-minute mindfulness practice. It can be really short and simple. There are a whole host of apps that you can do, or you can just do kind of a couple minutes or even just a minute of deep breathing, sitting quietly to yourself.
So, what are your favorite tips for living with disabilities? Go ahead and tell us in the comments over at strokecast.com/2018hacks. Do you know anyone else who might find these tips useful? Share this episode with them by giving them the link strokecast.com/2018hacks. Be sure to subscribe for free so you never miss an episode in your favorite podcast app. And of course, as always, don't get best. Get better. Thanks a lot. I'm Bill Monroe, and I'll talk to you next week.
The Strokecast, Bill Monroe, and Bill's guests provide general information and entertainment, not medical advice. Please do not make any changes to your treatment plan or the execution of your treatment plan without first consulting your personal doctor or medical team. The Strokecast is a proud production of the Currently Speaking Podcast Network.